Just a little more than an hour ago, we saw something in Alex Jones' defamation trial that Jones himself described as a Perry Mason moment. The lawyer for the parents of Jesse Lewis, who was killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School, just said in court that Alex Jones' lawyers were sent the contents of Jones' phone by mistake. The lawyer showed Jones his own emails about Sandy Hook. After Jones had testified under oath, he couldn't find any. Lewis's parents are suing Jones for $150 million. Scarlett Lewis testified yesterday Jones had made her life, quote, a living hell. I want to bring in NBC's Ben Collins, who covers disinformation, extremism, and the internet for us. Ben, I mean, this feels like this only happens in movies, not real life. What happened?
Yeah, it's probably too stupid for Law and Order, frankly. Alex Jones's lawyers sent over the contents of his entire phone to the Sandy Hook parents' lawyers 12 days ago by mistake. And as of 2 days ago, he is allowed to use them in evidence. And what happened was, over the last few days, Alex Jones has said some things that are demonstrably false, just not true on the stand. Things about his, specifically about his bankruptcy, about faux bankruptcy, about his financials. Now we know that's not true. In fact, we got for the first time in years, we got a sense of how much InfoWars makes on a day-to-day basis. There are days where they make $800,000 a day. It's $800,000 a day. Think about that. And he is saying that this lawsuit will bankrupt him if $2 million is the settlement. It is a truly wild courtroom moment that I don't think anybody was expecting.
I mean, that's crazy, but then there was also great emotion, right? I think if there was a single moment that captured that in the courtroom, and also, I guess, the conspiratorial mindset of Jones, it had to be when the mother of 6-year-old Jesse Lewis went over to him yesterday. What happened then?
Yeah, so Alex Jones has said he has a torn larynx and has been coughing, I would say, at strategically placed moments all throughout this trial. Scarlett Lewis, whose 6-year-old son Jesse died in Sandy Hook, an event that Jones once said was synthetic and staged, she went over and brought him a bottle of water. Alex Jones went out to shake her hand, but by the end of the conversation, he was telling her that she was being manipulated by lawyers and started screaming at her and another Sandy Hook parent and her lawyers. It was an intense scene. The judge had left the courtroom. They were right next to each other. It was pretty harrowing there for a few minutes.
We only have 30 seconds left, but wasn't there a point at which the judge got so frustrated with Jones lying that he cleared the courtroom?
Yeah, the judge, she's been unbelievably upset with Jones's lying in general, but also his lawyers who have been doing things like chewing gum over the course of the trial, not taking this thing seriously. But really, you can't take it any less seriously than sending over the entire contents of a phone to...
Glenn, then you have the Pat Cipollone subpoena. How much of an escalation is it to bring him in front of a federal grand jury? And what powers do they have that maybe the January 6th committee didn't?
The perfect question, Chris, because some people might look at this, well, that's more of the same, because Pat Cipollone already testified to the January 6th committee. But the two settings, the J6 committee and a federal grand jury, are as different as night and day. The J6 committee doesn't have any real power or a viable path to test and overcome a privilege once it's asserted. But the grand jury has a direct path to promptly resolve the assertion of any privilege by a witness. All we do, and I litigated lots of privileges when witnesses would claim them in the grand jury, we go to the chief judge who has supervisory authority over the grand jury. In this case, it will be Beryl Howell in D.C. Federal District Court, and we litigate the assertion of a privilege. And McGahn, that's a Freudian slip. Pat Cipollone does not have a robust privilege to assert, because it's for a former president, and the current president, Joe Biden, the holder of the privilege, seems inclined to waive it pretty much every time he is asked. And then there's the crime fraud exception. So Chief Judge Beryl Howell could find that the privilege does not exist. And
this executive order also helps women travel out of state for medical care. Secretary Becerra is going to work with states through the Medicaid to allow them to provide reproductive health care for women who live in states where abortions are being banned in that state. Executive order makes sure healthcare providers comply with federal laws so women don't face delays or denials of medically necessary care. And this executive order advances research and data collection to evaluate the impact of this reproductive health crisis is having on maternal health and other health conditions and outcomes. This executive order builds on the first one I signed last month that created this task force in the first place. And that also will help safeguard access to health care, including the right to choose and contraception, promote safety and security of clinics, patients, and providers, protects patients' privacy and access to accurate information.
Now to the escalating tensions between the U.S. and China, with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi meeting with Taiwan's president overnight. China is accusing the U.S. of playing with fire. Our senior White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, is tracking the latest. Good morning, Mary.
Michael, good morning. Well, overnight, that historic moment on this trip that has sparked a lot of controversy and fierce pushback from the Chinese. The White House this morning says they anticipated this response, but is warning China not to escalate things further. This morning, the meeting China did not want to happen. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defying Beijing's stern warnings, warmly received by Taiwan's president.
Our delegation came here to send an unequivocal message. America stands with Taiwan.
Pelosi is the highest-ranking official to visit Taiwan in 25 years, a self-governing democracy that China considers part of its territory.
The world faces a choice between democracy and autocracy. America's determination to preserve democracy here in Taiwan and around the world remains ironclad.
But this morning, Beijing is furious, accusing the U.S. of playing with fire. The Chinese government swift to react, announcing military exercises in the waters surrounding Taiwan, including live ammunition drills, and sending nearly 24 warplanes into its air defense zone. The spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry this morning saying the U.S. and Taiwan are not listening, and therefore the Chinese military and the Chinese side can only communicate with the U.S. and the Taiwan Independent Separatist Forces in a language that they can understand. Pelosi has long been a vocal critic of China's human rights record, seen here in 1991 commemorating the pro-democracy protesters killed in Tiananmen Square. And visits by Republican and Democratic lawmakers are common, but this visit is different. Shrouded in secrecy, Pelosi's office refusing to confirm the stop until she touched down in Taipei. Now, the Chinese this morning are also summoning the U.S. ambassador to China to formally protest Pelosi's visit. The White House, though, is defending her decision to make this trip, saying it is in line with longstanding U.S. policy.
New details coming in now about an investigation into Rudy Giuliani, with sources telling NBC News it seems unlikely he will face federal charges for his dealings in Ukraine. The former mayor, former attorney for former President Trump, has been under investigation by Manhattan federal prosecutors for nearly 2 years. NBC's Tom Winter is scooping this story for us here at NBC News. So, Tom, why not? Why isn't Giuliani likely to be charged?
Well, I think a couple of different things. First off, the investigation as to whether or not he committed some sort of a FARA violation as it pertained to the ousting of Marie Yovanovitch, the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, as well as some of the efforts that some have described as an effort to dig up dirt on Hunter Biden by Giuliani with individuals in Ukraine or tied to Ukraine. I think a couple of different hurdles here. One, it's a little bit of a high bar if you don't have a person on the other side that you were specifically doing work for. So when you look at this, Giuliani, if he was to violate federal law and to be charged here, the people that he was working for would have had to have been people that were directly tied to the Ukrainian government or were there in some sort of official capacity that had hired Giuliani. I don't know if that type of evidence surfaced as strong enough for prosecutors to bring forward charges. A couple of reasons why we're reporting this today. First is that Giuliani Giuliani has had his personal electronic devices, and they took a whole bunch of them from his office and his homes in the course of a search warrant back in April of 2021, Hallie. Those were all returned to Rudy Giuliani. In addition to that, in February, he met with U.S. attorneys, with assistant United States attorneys. Those are the prosecutors that actually bring the cases, as well as FBI agents, sat with them, according to Giuliani, for approximately 4 hours. So the trend here has been toward not charging him, although the investigation has not concluded. It has not been officially closed. And it's Giuliani said, quoting the great Yogi Berra to our colleagues Melissa Russo and Jonathan Dienst, it's not over until it's over. So his kind of guidance, if he was the attorney for somebody else, to his client would be, look, this is a good step, but it doesn't mean anything official yet. But certainly the trend is to no charges. We should note, Hallie, as far as any other potential investigations involving Giuliani, we know about the one down in Georgia having to pertain to the 2020 election, any sort of federal investigations out of January 6th. This does not impact those at all. This will not impact any potential charging decisions down the line if there's criminality that is found as it pertains to those efforts by Giuliani. This is just specific to this federal investigation into New York and this possible violation of FARA. So that's what we're talking about here today, and that's what this is centered on.